Because 10 years later, I think you called it. Here's Donald Trump today, the man with the heart and soul of a fascist, showing us he now has the bona fides. By tonight, ordering investigations into American citizens. That's why members of his party, why
are you so upset he's running the executive branch?
Kate Baldwin stepped in for Abby Phillip on The Abby Phillip Show, moderating a spirited panel featuring Miles Taylor, Betsy McCoy, Jamal Simmons, Stacey Schneider, and political commentator Scott Jennings. The discussion centered on growing criticism from some Republican lawmakers, including Representative Marjorie Taylor Greene, toward former President Donald Trump, a shift that sparked strong reactions across the table. The exchange quickly became intense, particularly as differing perspectives on Trump's influence and the direction of the party collided. In this breakdown, we'll take a closer look at the key moments from this debate and what they may signal about evolving dynamics within the GOP. I'll also share my own analysis of the conversation and the broader political implications. Let's dive in.
All right, so a lot has happened tonight. Buckle up. Marjorie Taylor Greene is learning what it feels like to be on Trump's bad side. She has been one of the most vocal Republicans calling for the full release of the Justice Department's investigative files on Jeffrey Epstein. And now President Trump tonight is unendorsing. He is withdrawing his endorsement of Marjorie Taylor Greene and writing on Truth Social that all I see wacky Marjorie do is complain. And then he added that I can't take a ranting lunatic's call every day. There was a lot there. So you can go and then talk about a lot. Then MTG fired back with screenshots of text messages that she claims that Trump is lying and that she did not call him, also saying that it is astonishing, really, how hard he is fighting to stop the Epstein files from coming out. She argued that she has been one of Trump's strongest supporters, but that she doesn't, quote, worship or serve Donald Trump. On top of unendorsing, he actually said that he would support anyone who would be primarying her in the upcoming election. Who wants to take this one on?
Well, I can tell you that is not unusual in politics. Political romances are often short-lived. And she has been critical of him not only about the Epstein files, but about his involvement in foreign affairs. And I don't mean with women. I mean in various parts of the world.
You said it, not us.
Just to clear the table on that one. And so it's not surprising that they have had a breakup of sorts after all. He didn't give her a ring. He just supported her for a little while.
Listen, this fire is spreading. I mean, right, it started off talking about Epstein in the beginning. Then during the shutdown, she was one of the few Republicans that correctly identified Donald Trump's unwillingness to deal with the ACA subsidies and lower healthcare costs for Americans as being one of the reasons why the shutdown occurred.
She was very outspoken about that.
Now she's talking about foreign policy. This is not going away. Whatever is going on between them seems to only be heating up, and I think the rest of us should get the popcorn.
I think they're here for it.
And a war with words, sorry, Scott, a war with words with Donald Trump is such a risky business that I cannot believe she has the bravery to engage in it, because even if she was right, she's still going to lose.
Is there an example of anyone beating Donald Trump at this game?
Never. This is his game, and he's great at it. And she's barking up a tree that she's going to fall on her really hard.
You know, it's interesting. He has some people who profess to be strong supporters who do oppose him more often than the people that you might not think are his strongest supporters. She's one of them. Thomas Massie in Kentucky is another one. Rand Paul, my home state senator, he takes on Trump, although they profess to be Trump supporters. In this case, I think he had the order out of order. I trace all this back to his decision, the righteous decision to strike Iran. She was against it. So were some of the people who occupy that wing of the party. He defied them. And since that time, they all seem to be stridently picking at him on this issue or that. And then, of course, everybody knows in Washington, Miles, you know, the fastest way to get in front of a television camera if you're a Republican is to come out and crap on Donald Trump. And so that is what she is doing. But, you know, Scott, that is what she is doing because she is mad at him over these issues, and that's what happened.
Scott, I trace it further back than that. I trace it back to 10 years ago when you said Donald Trump was an authoritarian. And you know what, Scott, I've got to hand it to you. That was a remarkable forecast because 10 years later, I think you called it. Here's Donald Trump today, the man with the heart and soul of a fascist, showing us he now has the bona fides by tonight ordering investigations into American citizens. That's why members of his party, that's why members of his running the executive against him.
Why are you so upset he's running the executive branch?
For the same reasons you predicted he shouldn't. For the same reasons, Scott, you said he violated his oath and he should never be back in that office. That's why I'm upset for the man being in the Oval Office.
I happily voted for him 3 times.
I know that.
The alternative was terrible.
And a lot of your friends were shocked.
Yeah, well, a lot of my friends would have been shocked at you trying to subvert the elected president of the United States, which you did.
Well, I proudly did. I proudly
Some
said
mid-level
to the
staffer
country
substituting his judgment for the elected president of the United States.
Well, Scott, I would have loved to have seen you stand up to it.
Good luck.
One of the most striking moments in this panel discussion was the exchange between Miles Taylor and Scott Jennings. Jennings, who often offers a staunch defense of former President Donald Trump on the Abby Phillip show, attempted to deliver his usual pointed critiques toward Taylor. But Taylor pushed back firmly, raising concerns about what he described as authoritarian tendencies within Trump's leadership style. According to Taylor, Jennings himself expressed similar concerns about Trump nearly a decade ago, a claim Jennings did not directly dispute in the segment. This dynamic reflects a broader pattern within Republican circles. Several figures who once voiced serious reservations about Trump have since shifted to consistently supporting him as his political influence has grown. Taylor highlighted this trend by pointing to examples like Vice President J.D. Vance, who was once sharply critical of Trump's rhetoric, but has since become one of his strongest allies. It's a familiar arc seen across the party as political realities change. The conversation also touched on Rep. Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, despite her controversial reputation and history of promoting fringe theories, has recently taken public positions challenging Trump on policy issues, such as the Affordable Care Act and U.S. foreign engagements. Panelist Stacey Schneider noted that confronting Trump directly is politically risky, yet Greene has chosen to do so. A choice that stands in contrast to commentators who rarely, if ever, break from Trump's line. Overall, the exchange underscored the divisions within the Republican Party and highlighted the growing willingness of some conservatives to challenge Trump publicly, even as others remain firmly aligned with him.
Is it the sign of a changing tide? Is it the sign, or is it a singular one back and forth between one Republican who is getting into a fight with Donald Trump? Or do you think there is a possibility that it is the beginnings of Republicans seeing past the Donald Trump era?
The short answer is that we don't know.
Because you've got like Thomas Massey saying exactly that. Like your vote on this discharge petition is going to outlast Donald Trump's time here. So you need to consider that when you make your decision.
But if we keep paying attention, what we see is that last week, the president got his clock clean in an election. All the Republicans got their clock clean in an election. This week, we see what's happening with the Epstein files. So next week, we're going to see them take a vote. And if we see a bunch of Republicans defect on the Epstein files, I think what we're seeing is the real testing of the waters to find out whether or not you can oppose Donald Trump and still get elected. When we talk about Marjorie Taylor Greene, the one thing we haven't talked about yet is her fundraising prowess. And according to sources, she is the most popular fundraiser in the Republican Party other than Donald Trump.
She's at 12% in the vote.
They're going to divide up.
This prediction about no one's going to care about
I was asking it a question. I wasn't predicting it.
No, you said people were somebody said that this was going to outlive.
Tom Massey.
The prediction that this was going to outlive. I totally disagree with that. I think right now more people are worried about whether they can watch ESPN on YouTube TV tomorrow than they care about this. And that's certainly going to be true in 1 year, 5 years, or 10 years from today.
Hold on, but what they do care about, they
did not get their clocks cleaned last week.
They do care about the fact that the president is sort of breaking everything. Right? They see a hole in the White House right now. I was in Detroit last weekend for an event, and it was the number one thing people came up to me at the scholarship dinner to ask about. Is it okay for the president to tear down the White House without anybody's permission?
That was the number one thing?
That was the number one thing that people brought up unprovoked.
I keep hearing this over and over again. Is like, no one cares about this because they only care about that.
What they care about? They can't buy a house.
That they can't. They care about affordability.
Houses unaffordable and that food costs too much. Yeah. But they don't care about the White House. The fact is, a president who can't model the White House.
Many people care about the White House.
That's ridiculous.
Many Americans care about the White House. You don't care about the White House.
Can't remodel a room in the White House.
He remodeled it. He tore it down.
Tomato.
In the middle of a government shutdown.
I couldn't tear down my garage without getting a permit from the city.
And that's what
regulations.
But let me ask you this.
And he's tearing down a ballroom.
I think this often when people say, you're all talking about this, but here's the focus should really be this. People hold multiple thoughts and focuses in their heads at the same time. Like people can care about multiple things. They can care about not being able to buy a new home. They can care about the skyrocketing cost of food, which we'll talk about shortly. And they can care about, I don't know, anything else. Stacey Plackett getting text messages from Jeffrey Epstein, if you want to take it from Scott's side. Like, you can hold all of these thoughts. I always think it's just someone trying to say to me, I don't want to answer your question by just trying to deflect that way. I find it a deflection when people say, don't focus on this. You need to focus. Everyone only cares about this one issue.
Well, I mean, if you're analyzing it from the perspective of like political consultant speak, like what do voters care about? How do we get voters to move a certain direction? Next year, the way you'll get voters to move would be on cost of living, health care. I mean, things that actually motivate their lives. They may have some interest in this, some passing interest in it, but motivation to vote? I mean, everybody knows what the bread and butter issues are. This won't be one of them, but the ones that will be relevant are quite obvious.
I disagree with Scott fervently on Donald Trump, and I could not agree with him more on that point. Voters aren't going to care about this next year. For better or for worse, they are going to care about things like affordability. Everyone in politics is going to be running that direction in the lead up to the election.
The people that do care about it, though, and consistently get lost in it, are the victims of Jeffrey Epstein, who then just wrote a letter to members of Congress saying, think about if this was you. Think about if this was your child when you're taking this vote next week.
Do you think
I am saying that because...
Do you think the victims would agree with Donald Trump asking the Department of Justice to look into people that may have been involved in this and got away with it?
Scott, it would have been nice if he did it when he got into office.
I know they can speak for themselves. I do know that Democrat, even Ro Khanna, said, everyone, investigate it.
Well, there seems to be a lot of anger about Donald Trump saying, well, maybe these people need to be looked into. Why?
I think where the interest is if these people are looked into, a member of Congress actually said it today, we don't have time to run it, but if these people are looked into, does that mean that Donald Trump can be looked into as well?
Is there a shred of evidence he ever did anything untoward?
Is there a shred of evidence?
No. About anybody else? Is there a shred of evidence? No. All right, same answer for the other people.
Stand by my friend. Stacey, thank you.
Scott Jennings offered a very familiar response during the panel's discussion about the Epstein case, one that reflects a broader pattern in certain political circles. He quickly shifted the focus toward other public figures while insisting that the individual he supports bears no responsibility. It's a recurring theme, firm conclusions drawn without full access to the facts. The truth is that the public still doesn't know the full scope of involvement, if any, of Donald Trump, Bill Clinton, or many others who cross paths with Epstein. What stands out, though, is the contrast in how different political groups approach the issue. Many Democrats and voices on the left consistently call for full transparency, regardless of party affiliation. Their position is simple: release the information, and if anyone committed wrongdoing, they should be held accountable. On the other side, commentators like Jennings often argue with certainty that their preferred political figure is completely uninvolved, while suggesting that scrutiny should be applied elsewhere. That unwavering confidence, presented as fact, is what drives much of the frustration during these panel exchanges. A similar dynamic played out when Stacey Schneider commented that Republicans did not experience major electoral setbacks, presenting her perspective as an objective truth. Jennings also emphasized that voters only prioritize certain issues, particularly the economy, a point some panelists agreed with, noting that economic conditions often shape election outcomes. If consumer confidence and economic indicators remain weak, it could pose challenges for candidates aligned with Jennings' political perspective heading into the next election cycle. The debate moderated by Kate Bolduan on The Abby Phillips Show highlighted these contrasting viewpoints clearly. Some panelists, like Miles Taylor, challenged Jennings directly, questioning the certainty and framing that often accompany his commentary. What do you think? Did you find Jennings' arguments persuasive? Or do you agree more with panelists who push back on his points? Share your thoughts in the comments, and let's continue the conversation. Make sure to like, subscribe, and stay tuned. I'm Insights Brief, and I'll see you in the next one.